You're smart. You think deeply. You see what others miss. But despite all that insight, something still feels empty. You achieve, you understand, and yet you're quietly unfulfilled. This isn't laziness. It's not lack of purpose. It's the real cost of intelligence. A silent pressure no one prepared you for. Einstein once hinted at it. We honor the rational mind, but forget the sacred gift. In today's video, we'll uncover the emotional weight of brilliance, and more importantly, how to carry it differently. If you've ever thought, why do I know so much, but still feel so stuck? You're not alone, and you're not broken. You're just ready to understand what no one ever told you. You wake up, and before your eyes even open, your brain is already running. Thoughts, plans, doubts. You haven't moved a muscle, but you already feel behind. Sound familiar? It's like living inside a constant mental storm. You're always thinking, always analyzing, always trying to make the right choice. But somehow, no matter how much you process, you stay stuck in the same place. And here's the part that hurts the most. You're not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're tired. Tired from carrying a mind that never stops. You know so much. But doing something about it? That feels impossible. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff, fully aware of what's on the other side, but frozen by the fear of falling. See, most people think intelligence is the answer to everything. But no one talks about how intelligence can become a trap. When you're brilliant at seeing all the options, all the risks, all the outcomes, it becomes hard to take even one step. You get paralyzed, not from weakness, but from too much awareness. You've probably even said this to yourself. I just need to think it through a little more. But deep down, you already know. You've thought it through 1,000 times. What you really need isn't more thinking. It's a moment of trust, a moment to move, even if it's messy, even if it's small. And the truth is, you're not alone. So many people with brilliant minds feel this same silent pressure. They look calm on the outside, but inside, they're stuck in a loop of planning, of doubting, of waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Albert Einstein once said, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant." But we've created a world that praises the servant and silences the gift. Maybe it's time to let that gift speak again. You ever notice how some people just do things? They wake up with an idea, act on it before lunch, and by dinner, they've made something happen. It might not be perfect, but it exists. It's real. It's moving, and then there's you. You wake up with 10 ideas. You explore each one from every possible angle. You research, compare, question, reevaluate. You think through how it might fail, how it might succeed, how it might make someone uncomfortable, how it might change your life, for better or worse. And then, you do nothing. It's not that you don't care. You care too much. It's not that you're lazy. You're exhausted from thinking, from anticipating, from trying to solve problems that haven't even happened yet. This is the quiet tragedy of brilliant, emotionally aware, high-functioning minds. On the outside, you're calm, in control, analytical. But inside, you're trapped in your own brilliance, spiraling in thought, circling the edge of action but never quite stepping forward. And it's not because you're incapable. It's because you were taught, by life, by culture, by survival, that movement must come after certainty, that you can't act until you've removed every risk, every unknown, every possibility of rejection, shame, or failure. But here's the truth: certainty is an illusion. You will never know for sure how something will turn out. And if you keep waiting for that certainty, you'll keep waiting your whole life. Einstein understood this. He wasn't just a physicist. He was a man who believed that imagination, not logic, was the source of true power. He once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. Let that land, because your imagination, your ability to see more, to feel more, to dream more, is not a flaw. It's your gateway, but only if you stop using it to scare yourself." Let me tell you a story. There was a young woman, brilliant, intuitive, deeply insightful. She could understand people in ways they didn't even understand themselves. She had powerful ideas, visions, things she wanted to share with the world, but every time she tried to act, her mind got loud. What if this isn't good enough? What if they misunderstand me? What if I'm too late, or too early, or just wrong? So she stayed still, waiting for the fear to go away. Years passed, and she woke up one day with a realization that broke her open. I've been waiting for the fear to leave, instead of learning how to move with it. And that's the key. People with sensitive, intelligent minds tend to wait until they feel ready. But readiness doesn't come before the leap. It comes after. It comes through the action. Not reckless action, not impulsive action, but courageous action. The kind that says, I don't need to have every answer. I just need to begin. And maybe that's where you are now. You've carried the weight of your own thoughts long enough. You've sat in the cave of what-ifs for too many seasons. And your mind, it's starting to turn against you. Not out of malice, but out of habit. Because the mind was never meant to lead alone. It was meant to serve the heart, the soul, the body that feels when something is right, even when it's scary. So here's what I want to offer you today. Not as advice, but as a small invitation. Start where you are. Not where you should be. Not where you wish you were. Just here, now. With the next honest action, it could be a message you send, a boundary you set, a piece you create and finally publish, a walk you take without your phone. Something small, but real, because every time you act from alignment, not perfection, not fear, but truth, your nervous system learns that safety isn't in thinking it through endlessly. It's in trusting yourself again. One step, then another. That's how momentum begins. That's how self-respect grows. That's how your life shifts. Einstein also said this: life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. But moving doesn't mean rushing. It means choosing not to let your mind become a cage, choosing to let the energy of your ideas reach the world, choosing to stop hiding behind the comfort of potential, and finally living in the discomfort of becoming. So if you've been stuck in your own mind, if you've been waiting to feel ready, if you're always thinking but secretly aching to act, this is your quiet wake-up call. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be willing to begin, to move, to trust, and most of all, to live. You've probably heard it your whole life. You're so strong. You always know what to do. You've got such a good head on your shoulders, and maybe part of you is proud of that. You've worked hard to become someone others can rely on. You show up, you solve problems, you carry the weight, often without complaint. But let's get honest for a second. Who holds you? When was the last time someone looked at you and said, "You don't have to be strong right now"? Because here's the hidden truth. Being the strong one comes with a quiet, relentless pressure. You don't get to fall apart. You don't get to be confused. You don't get to show how tired you really are, because you've taught the world to expect your composure, your control, your calm. And over time, that image becomes a mask you can't take off. Even when your chest feels heavy, even when your mind is screaming, even when you're completely, utterly drained. It's like you're carrying an invisible backpack filled with everyone else's expectations and your own silence. The world sees your surface, not your soul. They see the answers you give, not the questions you cry into your pillow. They see the way you keep going, but not the toll it's taken to keep showing up like nothing hurts. Albert Einstein once said, "The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." What if the pressure to always be strong is just that? A way of thinking you've outgrown. What if you could rewrite that story? Let me share something you may need to hear today. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to not have it all figured out. You are allowed to Say, "I need help," without apologizing for it. Strength is not about being invulnerable. It's about being real. And here's the cost of never being real. Eventually, your nervous system starts to break down. Your joy fades. You feel distant, not because you want to be, but because no one sees the real you anymore. They see the role you play, and playing that role day after day while burying your truth? That's the most exhausting performance in the world. But here's the good news. You don't have to keep playing it. You can start small. The next time someone asks how you're doing, try giving them a real answer, not the polished, filtered, socially acceptable version. Or try saying this to someone you trust. "I'm tired of being the strong one all the time." Not because you want pity, but because you want connection. You want someone to see the human beneath the armor. Because that's what this is really about. Being seen. Not just for what you do, but for what you feel. For who you are. Einstein believed in simplicity, not just in science, in life. Out of clutter, find simplicity. From discord, find harmony. Maybe it's time to simplify the expectations you carry. Maybe harmony doesn't come from holding everything together, but from finally letting something go. So here's your permission. Let someone in. Let something go. Let yourself be held, even if only for a moment. Because being strong isn't about never breaking. It's about knowing when to stop breaking. Alone. And if this feels like your story, if your soul whispered yes while reading this, I want you to comment below. I'm strong, but I'm human too. Because maybe, just maybe, someone else needs that reminder today too. Let me ask you something personal. Do you ever lie awake at night, your body exhausted, but your mind racing? It's not that you're trying to think. The thoughts just come, one after another. A spiral of what-ifs, of conversations you had, of things you still need to do, of feelings you haven't had time to feel. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not overthinking for the sake of it. You have a brilliant mind, and brilliance comes with weight. Because a sensitive, intelligent mind doesn't just process the world, it absorbs it. Most people think intelligence means having answers. But in reality, it often means carrying questions that no one else even knows how to ask. It means seeing 10 layers where others see one. It means replaying moments, trying to decode what went unsaid. It means caring deeply about things others shrug off. It means not being able to shut it off, even when all you want is a moment of peace. And let's be honest, most people don't get it. They don't understand why you seem distracted sometimes, why you need space, why you get emotionally flooded by things they barely noticed. You've probably heard things like, "You think too much," or "Just stop worrying." As if it were that simple. As if your nervous system had an off switch. As if your intuition wasn't screaming things they've never learned to hear. Albert Einstein once said, "I lived in solitude in the country, and noticed how the monotony of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind." He wasn't just talking about ideas. He was talking about peace, about creating space for the mind to breathe. But that kind of space is rare in today's world, especially for you. You, the one who solves problems before they arrive. The one who predicts tension before it's spoken. The one who remembers emotions no one ever verbalized. The one who carries the emotional pulse of every room you walk into. You carry so much, and yet you rarely pause to ask, who carries me? And maybe it's because you've learned to normalize the noise, the mental replay, the over-preparation, the endless scanning for what's wrong, for what could go wrong, for what needs to be done next. You've wired yourself for survival, for hyper-functioning, and it works. Until it doesn't. Until you can't rest, can't focus, can't feel present, can't enjoy even the peaceful moments, because your mind is still living 3 days ahead or 10 years behind. Here's the truth. Most high-functioning minds never hear. You're not tired because you're lazy. You're tired because you never stop. Even in silence, your brain keeps running scenarios. Even in stillness, your body is bracing for the next wave. That's not weakness. That's a nervous system stuck in overdrive. And if no one has told you this, there's a way out. Not by thinking harder, not by fixing everything, but by learning a new rhythm, a rhythm of presence. Einstein believed imagination was more powerful than knowledge. Why? Because imagination requires freedom, and freedom starts with letting go. Letting go of the belief that you must earn rest. Letting go of the idea that you must have all the answers before you can feel safe. Letting go of the need to analyze everything to feel in control. You were never meant to live in your mind alone. Your body is wise too. Your breath is an anchor. Your heart is not just a pump, it's a compass. And your spirit? It's been whispering for years, asking you to slow down long enough to hear it. So what does this look like in practice? It starts with awareness. When your thoughts start spiraling, pause. Name it. I'm spiraling. Say it out loud if you have to. Then bring your awareness to something real. Your breath, the texture of your shirt, the warmth in your chest. Remind yourself, I am here. This moment is safe. Then ask, is this thought helping me right now, or is it just familiar? That question alone can shift everything, because most of your racing thoughts aren't new. They're habits, loops, echoes of the same fear dressed in new clothes. Einstein also said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. What if you stopped trying to solve your inner state and just felt it instead? That's the deeper work. That's what leads to freedom, because you can't outthink your nervous system. But you can learn to soothe it. You can learn to come back to your body, to a moment, to a breath, and say, this is enough. I am enough. Right now. Over. Time. Your mind learns it doesn't have to be on guard all the time. That peace doesn't mean danger. That rest is not a threat, and slowly you begin to live differently, not by changing everything, but by relating to it differently. You begin to stop solving every emotion and start holding space for it. You begin to stop escaping the moment and start inhabiting it. You begin to feel safe in the stillness, not because the world is perfect, but because you are learning to be present with yourself. So if this sounds like you, if you're always thinking, always planning, always bracing, I want you to try something simple this week. Once a day, for 2 minutes, put your hand on your chest and whisper, I'm allowed to stop. Let that be enough. Let your body relearn that you are safe, that you are not just a mind. You are a whole human being. And if this touched something in you, I want to hear it. Comment below with this phrase. I'm learning to live beyond my thoughts, because you deserve more than mental survival. You deserve to live. Let's be honest. You're the one everyone turns to. You're calm under pressure. You give solid advice. You seem to have it all together, or at least you've learned how to look like you do. People admire your strength, your stability, your insight, but they rarely ask what it costs you to be that person. And maybe you wouldn't even know how to explain it if they did, because the pressure to always seem okay is quiet. It doesn't scream. It doesn't break things. It just sits there, like an invisible weight on your chest. Always present, always whispering, don't fall apart. People are counting on you. It's not that you never struggle. It's that you don't show it. You've learned to process pain privately, to cry silently, to fix things before anyone notices. You've learned to be the strong one, not because you chose it, but because it felt like the only option. And yet, here's the hardest part. When people only ever see your strength, they forget you're also human. They forget that behind every calm response, there's a storm you're managing alone. Behind every grounded piece of advice, there's a tired mind begging for rest. Behind every smile, there's a part of you wondering how long you can keep it up. Albert Einstein once said, "A calm and modest life brings more happiness than
the pursuit of success combined with constant restlessness. But what if your life is restless? Not because you want success, but because peace feels unsafe. Because slowing down feels like falling behind. Because being vulnerable feels like
being exposed. That's the trap so many brilliant, sensitive minds fall into. You become so used to functioning, even when you're exhausted, that you start to believe that being tired is just part of who you are. You normalize the burnout. You normalize the silence. You normalize the invisible performance of being fine. But here's the truth you've been needing to hear. You don't have to be okay all the time. You're allowed to need help, even if you're the one who usually gives it. You're allowed to not know, even if you're usually the answer. You're allowed to rest, even when there's still more to do. And no, it doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. Einstein didn't become a genius by pretending to have all the answers. He asked questions. He doubted. He reflected. He paused. He rested. His greatness came not from pretending to be perfect, but from being relentlessly honest with his mind. What if you gave yourself that same permission? What if, for once, you didn't rush to be okay? What if you just allowed the feeling to be what it is, not forever, not dramatically, just honestly? Because real healing doesn't happen in pretending. It happens in presence, in truth, in admitting, I'm not okay right now, and that's okay. Imagine what it would feel like to be fully seen, not just for your brilliance, not just for your strength, but for your full humanity. That's the space this message is meant to create, a space where it's safe to be tired, safe to be quiet, safe to not have it all figured out. So here's a small but powerful practice. Tonight, before bed, ask yourself one question. What part of me didn't get to speak today? And then listen. Not with judgment, not with pressure. Just listen. Maybe it's your sadness. Maybe it's your fear. Maybe it's the part of you that just wants to be held. And once you've heard it, say this softly to yourself. Even this part is allowed to be here. Because that's where peace begins. Not in pretending you're fine, but in honoring the truth of where you are. Einstein once said, "The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." Maybe that change starts here. Not with pushing harder, but with letting go. Not with solving everything, but with saying, I'm not just a mind. I'm a soul. I'm tired. I deserve to rest. And if you felt seen in this message, drop a comment below with the words, I'm allowed to not be okay. Because when we name the truth, we begin to heal. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. And you're not alone in this, not anymore. Let's talk about something we rarely admit out loud, the obsession with doing. The constant urge to check something off, to move, to produce, to achieve. Because if we're not doing, then what are we? It starts innocently. A to-do list, a calendar, a goal. But over time, the list becomes your identity. The calendar becomes your worth. And the goal? It becomes the thing you chase. Not to feel alive, but to feel enough. And if you're honest, you felt it. That hollow feeling after a productive day. That moment when you've crossed everything off, but still feel empty, like you ran the race but forgot why you were running. The truth is, high-functioning minds often fall into this trap. You become so good at doing that, you forget how to be. You get praised for your discipline, your work ethic, your focus, and so you keep going. But inside, you're quietly burning out. Albert Einstein once said, "Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. But we live in a world that measures everything: likes, followers, sales, steps, hours, emails. And in that noise, the soul gets lost." You might feel guilty for resting. You might feel lazy for saying no. You might even feel anxious when you have nothing to do, not because you don't deserve rest, but because you don't know who you are without the busyness. And that's the wound no one talks about. When your worth is tied to output, you lose connection with yourself. You stop asking, "What do I need?" and start asking, "What's next?" Even rest becomes a means to an end. You meditate to be more productive. You journal to solve a problem. You walk to optimize your mental performance. But what if rest wasn't a strategy? What if rest was the point? Einstein didn't make his greatest discoveries under pressure. He often credited imagination, solitude, and time wasted as the source of his genius. He once said, "Creativity is the residue of time wasted." Let that land. Because maybe your most important work isn't what you force, but what you allow. Maybe your deepest wisdom won't come from another hustle, but from stillness. And maybe, just maybe, your soul is tired, not because you're weak, but because it's never been given permission to pause. You don't have to earn your rest. You don't have to prove you're tired. You don't have to justify doing nothing. You are allowed to just be, not for productivity, not for performance, but because your humanity needs space to breathe. And I know, the fear creeps in. If I slow down, I'll fall behind. If I say no, I'll disappoint someone. If I stop now, what happens? Here's what happens. You begin to hear yourself again. You begin to remember what joy feels like. Not joy as a reward, but joy as your nature. You begin to feel the difference between motion and meaning, because constant movement isn't the same as progress, and staying busy isn't the same as being fulfilled. So here's a question to sit with today. If I stopped trying to be productive for just one day, what would I notice? Not as a test, as an invitation. Maybe you'd notice how loud your mind really is. Maybe you'd notice how tense your body has become. Maybe you'd notice the sadness you've been too busy to feel, or the creativity that's been waiting patiently for your attention. Einstein once described the intuitive mind as a sacred gift, and the rational mind as a faithful servant. He warned that we've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. That's the danger of constant productivity. It honors the system, but forgets the soul. And your soul, it's not interested in efficiency. It longs for connection, for presence, for truth. You weren't born to be a machine. You weren't made to exist in spreadsheets. You are a living, breathing, sensing, feeling human being, and that humanity deserves space. So here's your practice. This week, once a day, even for 10 minutes, do something with no outcome, not to learn, not to improve, not to achieve, just to be. That might mean lying on the floor and doing nothing. It might mean staring at the sky. It might mean doodling, humming, walking, staring, existing. But don't turn it into a task. Let it be your rebellion. Let it be your return. Because you're not here to be productive every moment of your life. You're here to feel it, to live it, to remember yourself. And if that feels radical, it's because you've been living inside a system that forgot the human behind the output. Einstein knew that stillness held the seeds of genius. Maybe today, you remember that stillness holds you. So if this message resonated with you, leave a comment below with just 2 words. I'm pausing. That's it. Because sometimes naming the pause is what finally gives your nervous system permission to rest. You're not lazy. You're not falling behind. You're remembering how to be human, and that is the most important work of all. There's a strange kind of isolation that comes with seeing the world deeply. You don't talk about it often, not because it doesn't matter, but because you've learned that most people wouldn't understand. Or worse, they'd misunderstand. You walk through life with your eyes wide open, not just literally, but emotionally, energetically, spiritually. You sense what's not being said. You feel what others try to hide. You connect dots no one else notices and read between lines that were never written. And for a long time, you thought this was normal. Until you started noticing something. You were always the one getting it, but rarely the one being gotten. You could sit with someone in their chaos, reflect back their truth, help them see what they couldn't. But when it was your turn to speak, people just didn't have the depth, patience, the space. So you stopped trying. You began editing yourself, shrinking your thoughts, softening your language, smiling when you wanted to scream, laughing when you felt like crying, pretending. You were fine when you were unraveling. Not because you're fake, but because you learned that the real you was too much, too intense, too emotional, too quiet, too complicated, too thoughtful, too everything. And in a world that glorifies speed, noise, and surface-level connections, your depth became your silence. But let's get honest here. That silence, it's not peace. It's loneliness. A loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from constantly feeling unseen. You give your presence so fully to others. You listen when no one else does. You hold space when no one else knows how. You remember the details most people forget. But when the moment passes, who remembers you? Who asks how you are, and actually stays to hear the answer? Who holds you with the same depth you offer so effortlessly? The answer might be no one. And that's the emotional cost of being the one who gets it. You're the grounding force in every room, the intuitive one, the observer, the listener, the feeler. You give people the gift of being seen, but carry the ache of never being fully mirrored. Einstein once said, "The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious." It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. But what happens when your life becomes all observation and no expression? When you're always tuned into others, but rarely into yourself? When your mystery becomes a mask? Here's the deeper truth. The world needs minds like yours, hearts like yours, but not just for what you can give, also for who you are when you stop performing, because you deserve to be held, not just helpful. You deserve to be witnessed, not just wise. You deserve to express your complexity, not hide it to make others comfortable. So here's the shift. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need a few who do. And that begins with letting yourself be seen, not perfectly, but honestly. It begins with saying, "I feel too much," and not apologizing for it. It begins with expressing a thought fully, even if someone doesn't get it. It begins with honoring your own experience, even if no one reflects it back. Because the more you show up as your full self, the more likely you are to find others who meet you at that level. Yes, it might take time. Yes, it might be rare. But rare is what you are, and rare is what you deserve in return. So this week, try this. Share something that feels true to you. Not to be understood, but to express. A feeling, a memory, a truth, a moment. Write it, speak it, let it exist. And when that voice inside says, "What if no one gets it?" Remind yourself, "I do. I get it. I've lived it. I've felt it." And that's enough, because the road back to feeling seen begins with seeing yourself. So if this spoke to you, comment below, "I want to be seen fully." That's not a weakness. That's a declaration. Because being the one who always gets it doesn't mean you have to disappear. You're allowed to be the light for others, but never at the cost of dimming your own. You lie in bed, the lights are off, the world is quiet, but your mind, still spinning. You're not solving a crisis, you're not planning anything urgent, but your thoughts, they won't stop. Conversations replay, ideas unravel, emotions echo. You scroll. Your memories like pages in a book that never ends, hoping to find the line where it all makes sense. And here's the strange part. You don't even know how long you've been doing this. It's just who you are, the one who notices more, feels more, thinks more, all the time. And maybe people admire that. They say you're insightful, self-aware, deep. But what they don't understand, what you've never been able to explain, is that having a mind like yours can feel like being trapped in a beautiful storm. Beautiful because of your sensitivity, storm because it never stops. You don't get to shut off. Not when you're working, not when you're resting, not even when you're laughing with friends. There's always a hum underneath. A soft buzz of thought, observation, reflection. Your brain is always processing, always sensing, always interpreting the world around you. And the world within you. And over time, that inner noise becomes normal. So normal. You forget what silence feels like. Not external silence. Internal. Stillness. The kind of peace that isn't about having less to do, but about having less to... Albert Einstein once said, "I think 99 times and find nothing. I stop thinking, swim in silence, and the truth comes to me." He wasn't speaking as a physicist. He was speaking as a human being who understood the mind's limits. He knew that constant thinking doesn't always lead to clarity. Sometimes it leads to collapse. And maybe deep down, you felt that too. Because your thinking isn't just logical, it's emotional. Your brain doesn't just store facts, it stores feelings. And when those feelings don't get processed or released, they recycle, they loop, they linger. That's why you replay that awkward moment from last week. That's why one tiny comment haunts you for days. That's why you keep searching for why. Not just to understand others, but to make peace with yourself. But what if understanding isn't what your mind needs most? What if what you really need is permission to stop solving, stop fixing, stop analyzing every word, every glance, every memory, because sometimes the healing you're searching for doesn't come from one more breakthrough. It comes from learning how to let go. And letting go doesn't mean ignoring your thoughts. It means learning not to live in them. It means noticing the storm without walking into it every time. That's what Einstein meant by swimming in silence. It's not about shutting down your mind. It's about softening your grip on it. Creating space between you and your thoughts, so they no longer own you. And here's how you start. Right now, wherever you are, take a breath, a real one. Not the shallow inhale you do between thoughts. A full breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And as you exhale, say to yourself, "I am not my thoughts. I am the one who sees them." Again, I am not my thoughts. I am the one who sees them. Feel the shift? That's the beginning of stillness. That's the doorway to rest. You don't have to stop being who you are. You don't have to shut down your intelligence or numb your sensitivity. You just need to learn how to hold your mind without being held captive by it. Because even brilliant minds need peace, even your mind, especially your mind. So here's your reminder today. Your value doesn't come from always thinking, always producing, always understanding. Sometimes your greatest wisdom will come when you let go of needing to know. Sometimes your peace will come when you stop trying to earn it. And sometimes your mind will only rest when you remind it that rest is allowed. Einstein knew this, and maybe now you do too. So if your mind has been loud lately, try this tonight. Before you sleep, place one hand over your heart and whisper, "I give myself permission to rest." Then, take another breath. Let it be soft. Let it be real. And let it carry you, not into more thought, but into stillness. Now, if this spoke to you, comment below, "My mind is brilliant and it deserves rest," because sometimes all it takes is permission. Have you ever looked at your life, your job, your responsibilities, even your accomplishments, and quietly thought to yourself, "Why am I still not where I want to be?" Not out loud, not with bitterness, just quietly. In those in-between moments, driving, showering, scrolling through someone else's highlight reel. It's not envy. It's not regret. It's that subtle ache that whispers, I should be further. And the most confusing part, you've done the work, you've read the books, gone to therapy, made sacrifices. You've stayed up late, pushed through discomfort, said yes when it was hard, and no when it mattered. And yet, you still feel behind, still restless, still not at peace. It's like you're climbing a staircase that keeps extending. Every time you reach a new level, instead of feeling proud, you feel pressure. More to do, more to prove, more to figure out. Why? Albert Einstein once said, strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. But here's what no one tells you. When you grow up attaching your worth to performance, value becomes another invisible target. You try to be valuable by being useful, by being needed, by being good, smart, insightful, kind, and over time, your entire sense of self becomes a project, something to upgrade, optimize, improve. But here's the truth. You are not a project. You are a person, a human being with limits, with cycles, with seasons. And maybe the reason you feel behind isn't because you are. It's because you've internalized a timeline that doesn't fit your soul. You've compared your inner journey to someone else's outer performance. You've mistaken constant motion for meaning, but not all growth is visible. Sometimes, growth is quiet. It's the kind of growth that doesn't show up on your resume, but shows up in how you speak to yourself when you fail. It's how you breathe when anxiety knocks. It's the way you pause, just for a moment, before jumping back into autopilot. That's not falling behind. That's the invisible work of healing. And healing has no deadline. You are not late. You are not slow. You are right on time for your life. Einstein wasn't famous at 20. He didn't speak fluently until age 4. He didn't publish his most important theories until his late 20s. And even then, he was dismissed for years. The point isn't to compare your timeline to his. The point is this. Brilliance has no schedule. Peace has no finish line. So if you feel stuck, or slow, or silently ashamed that you're not there yet, ask yourself, who told me where there is? What version of success are you chasing? Whose life are you measuring yourself against? Because if your idea of enough always lives one step ahead of you, you will never arrive. You'll stay in the loop, doing, proving, performing, and missing the fact that maybe you're already worthy, already wise, already becoming something extraordinary, right here, right now. So here's what I invite you to try this week. Every morning, ask yourself one question. What would today look like if I weren't trying to catch up? Let that question guide how you move, how you speak to yourself, how you allow yourself to rest, even when the world keeps shouting more. Because you are not behind, you are unfolding, and there is no timeline for becoming who you truly are. Now I want to ask you something, and if it feels safe, answer in the comments. What part of your life feels behind? And what would it feel like to stop racing it? Maybe your answer will be the reminder someone else needs to finally exhale. We're not meant to hustle our way to peace. We're meant to slow down enough to feel it, to live it. You're not late. You're right on time, and your time is now. So now you know, that heavy feeling of being behind, it's not a failure. It's not proof that you're lacking. It's the pressure of living in a world obsessed with speed, while your soul is asking for presence. Einstein taught us that value doesn't come from rushing, but from depth, from thinking differently, from honoring the pace of your own mind and heart. You're not lazy, you're not lost, you're awakening, and maybe that's the point of it all, not to catch up, but to wake up to stop chasing timelines that were never yours, and start living in alignment with what is. So here's your reminder, before you scroll away. You're allowed to be where you are. You're allowed to take your time, and the life you're meant for isn't ahead of you. It's already unfolding, right here, within you. If this spoke to you, comment below. I'm exactly where I need to be. And let that be the first time you believe it. Not just in your mind, but in your body, in your breath, in your life. If this message brought you clarity, consider subscribing. Not for more noise, but for more depth, more truth, and more of you.